I'm not going to finish that. Thank you.
So you have to reuse the bottle, use it twice now, so it's not going to be as busy.
Okay. Ready to start. Nobody's here, but we'll start anyway. Okay.
Now?
10 seconds. Okay.
3, 2,
Go.
1.
I can start?
Yeah.
Okay. Good now, Shabbos. Just want to finish some things off from HaAzinu, and then we'll go on to HaBracha. The Ikya part of HaAzinu that's trying to tell us is only one God. There is, that I think is the hardest thing for any religion to have, is the fact that good and bad, or not nearly good and bad, but what's perceived as good and bad comes from the same Mokum. So by the Goyim, by the Christians, they have a Milchama between Yoshke and the Satan, between good and bad. That's their Milchama. But it's not good and bad coming from the same place. So the Loshen, if you hold this two, please save me from what's happening to me, because somebody's doing this to me and I need someone to save me. But the Emerson, the Rebbeinu Shem says, ato ki ani anihu, I'm the guy, ve'ena lekimi modi, there's nobody with me, ani omis I kill, v'achayan I make alive, v'mochatz they are hurt, v'ani help and I cure. So basically, the real tefillah should be when a person is sick or whatever it is, please, Rebbeinu Shem, stop hitting me. Now, why am I hitting you? Obviously, because you did something wrong and you deserve some punishment involved. So tshuva follows it. If it's a point of just praying to be saved, so saved, from someone else. I don't have to do anything, I didn't do anything wrong. Someone's picking on me, so save me. So that's the point that he's trying to tell us. There's no such thing as anybody picking on you. So Bnei Shalom is the one that's doing it. And if he's doing it, means there's something wrong in what you're doing. And therefore you have to misakin it. You do tshuva, it's no problem. Now, Stamazay, to understand this whole thing of Vayishman Yishur Vayivot, that it seems to be a circle always. The Bnei Shalom makes us rich, and we get so big that all of a sudden we decide we're it, right? The reason we're so rich is because we must have done something good. Not good that to God and God gave it to me, but good that I'm so smart and I figured out how to do all these things. So Vayivot, he revolts. What does it mean revolts? Doesn't necessarily mean there's no God. But all of a sudden, and this is what I've perceived, that people want to believe, at least, that their idea of what's right and wrong, that's the one that's going to be. So what they do is when they get rich enough, they all of a sudden do what they think is right, and they say, let's see what you people do. Let's see your criticism now or not. And because of that, all of a sudden, Vayivot, people follow them because they're rich, they're powerful, whatever it is, or they have influence and whatever it is, and therefore Vayivot has a tremendous effect on Klal Yisrael. And this thing, but we can't keep going back and forth. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, when we're good, God rewards us. When He rewards us, we become bad, and then we become bad, He punishes us. I mean, it goes around circle. It doesn't make sense. So He's got to give us the answer how we're supposed to live, and that's basically what He's trying to tell us in this whole thing, is that the Rebbeinu Shalom controls everything. Now, even in the war, when it says one or two can chase 1,000 or 10,000, he says, Lu chochmo yaskilu zeis, they would really understand that's not possible. That 10,000 should be afraid of two people. But we've seen it. We've seen it by the Holocaust. We've seen it that the Nazis were not that many. They were taking care of a concentration camp. And in the concentration camp, there were thousands, and they were all going to the gas chamber. And if they would have decided to charge the guys with the guns, the few guys that were there, a lot of them would have gotten killed. I agree with you. The guy would be shooting them down. But what do you mean they're afraid of getting killed by the bullet? They'd rather die by the gas chamber? They're going to the gas chamber. So what is it? Why don't you attack them? Elavos, the Benshah makes such a fear that it's impossible to react. And that's the problem. And the Benshah does that, but not in Eretz Yisrael. That's the funny part. Not funny, I mean, that's the haftocha, I guess, we got. That the Benshah does this only be'eretz oivehim. In both teichachas, you'll see that it's only in the enemy's land, and by the goyim when we're in Golus. But in Eretz Yisrael, there's no fear of goyim. And that's why the interesting thing is, the Israelis never understood how could the Holocaust take place. Why don't you just charge it? Why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do that? Because they have no fear. So they have no fear. That's what they would have done. But if you have that pachad, that fear that's put in by the end, so the Benshah controls your emotions. He controls all the things that happen to you. And if you realize that and you put yourself in God's hands and you realize God's the one that's running everything, there wouldn't be ever a time of getting bad or good. I mean, laziness there may be, tiredness there may be, but it's not going to be any major love or anything else. It would be how you do the S's. Not the enthusiasm won't be there maybe and stuff like that, but the loving you won't do. Because you don't think you know who you are compared to HaKevin, you know that the Salvation is giving you everything. And he's so kind to you and he's so good to you. And if you look back at your life and see all the different things that happened to you till now, and see how they became and how much hatova God did for you. I look back at myself, I see it clearly. I see my life, my wife, my covered, my hanoya, all came through the Benshah, through things that happened. Not that I was such a big chochem and I went and I earned it, whatever it is. And that's the part, and I believe everybody else has the same point. And if we do that, I think that we'll be able to not get up to that point of Vayishban Yishum Vayivot. I just wanted to end off in HaAzinu. It says the Benshah is mitzavim to go up to Har Nevoy. And what do you tell him for two averes? Hashem me'altem bi b'toich b'nei Yisrael and v'lo kidashtem. And also it has to be, there's one marisam and lo mantem. So with one thing that he did, by hitting the rock, he was able 4 averes. What do you mean 4 averes? The thing, because what you did with that one hit, you did 4 things. Lo mantem, I'll give you what that pshat is. Moshe Rabbeinu lived with Klal Yisrael, and he knew they were always giving him a hard time. And Memele, he never got to the Madrege to understand why he should speak to them. You got to give him another hit in the head. Right? And he saw this when he came down and he's speaking to the rock and nothing happens. So maybe it needs a good patch, because that's the way he perceives Klal Yisrael, as a pain in the neck. And therefore he doesn't see the tzidkis of Klal Yisrael to the point that the Benshah says to them, just tell them to be good, and they'll be good. He doesn't see that. He says, you didn't believe in me. Marisam means simply you didn't listen. You hit, and I told you to talk. The other two, what I said here, is ma'altem, is you said that God can't do something. In other words, by the fact that you hit, you said that God can't make happen by speaking. And kiddashtem, if you would have done that, they would have seen what God expects of them. That even a rock, once you hit it, the next time you can speak to it. So you are people. So you surely should be. So you would have been kiddashtim. And those things you didn't do. And therefore, one action can do 4 different things. And therefore, when we do things, we think we're only doing one thing. Really, we're doing many things. That's the part that we have to always keep in mind. Okay, say HaBracha. Rashi says, before he died. Says, if not now, when? So obviously you got to do it when you're alive. But I think the reason a person puts it off is because he does see the goodness of Klal Yisrael. It may not register him, but maybe after that Maaseh, he started to look deeper into the goodness of Klal Yisrael. And he saw they're really good people. And, okay, like anybody, we have a problem. But they're good people. So therefore, the Rebbeinu Shalom, so he waits for the last moment he possibly can to be impressed as much as he can to give him over the bracha that he feels they deserve. Okay. Now it says he came from Sinai and he came to Seir and he went to Paran. Seir is Esav, Paran is Ishmael, and they didn't want the Torah. Now we know that the Beniman supposedly went to all the nations of the world and asked them if they wanted Torah, and they all turned it down. But the Torah only mentions 2, Esav and Ishmael. And I think the reason for that is because the only ones that he really needed to give the Torah to as the children of Avram is Esav and Ishmael. Esav is Mamish, has all Kedusha all the way down, Avram, Yitzchak, Yitzchak, right? So he has the real Kedusha of Klal Yisrael in him. And Yishmael, he was first the son of Avram, his son. And therefore these 2 deserve the Torah, but they don't want it. And you got to understand, what do you mean they don't want it? So supposedly Esav asked the question, what is saying the Torah? And the Torah says, you're not allowed to kill. He says, how can I say you're not allowed to kill? I live by the sword. Now, it's a very strange thing. You're going to say that the world will tolerate a country that just kills and invades people, does whatever it wants? The whole world will gotten up and destroyed them. You say, what did Rome do? I don't know what if Rome did that. They definitely came and raped every country. But they may have also done good things for the countries. I don't know. I have no idea how Rome got away with it. But basically, everyone would attack them. They wouldn't let you get away with it. So how come they did? Because we're talking about people that kill for the good. What do you mean they kill for the good? The CIA, right? They want to assassinate. I remember the guy in Chile. They assassinated. So it was a whole big turmoil politically, whether they do the right thing, the wrong thing, whatever it is. But the idea is they feel certain people deserve to be killed, and they kill them. Now, who's going to do the killing? We're not trained. So there's a people that are only by the Hashishim, which was where Hashish got its name, or where the assassin got its name from Hashish. So that they would rent themselves out as assassins. Okay, so fine. So we need assassins sometimes. The same thing applies with Yishmael. So what does it say in the Torah? You're not allowed to steal. You're not allowed to steal, so how am I going to do business? If we don't cheat a little bit in business and stuff like that, we're not going to have any millionaires, any billionaires. It's not going to be so good, so people are not going to want to go into business. So you gotta give him something, you know. You got the thing in your hand, you have the ability. That's all because they don't believe in God, obviously. Because they believe in God, the God would give it to them. So it's not a kasha. But Lamaise, that's the way it is. So therefore, they don't believe that you can do it in honesty. So therefore, they can't accept the Torah. Okay. The Torah tzivulanum, as they came, okay, Meish dos lomai. So Rashi says, black fire on white fire. So now let's understand what fire is. The way if I were to describe to you light, electricity, what does electricity does? It makes heat. Because it makes cold too. And makes light. So if you have a fire makes heat and light. But no, we got black fire, so it's not making any light. So therefore, fire does not have to make light. So therefore, I don't know what I'm saying, if it has anything to do with electricity or not. But there may be the issa of fire is not to light a fire that makes light or heat, but to create a connection that can make light and heat. And that would be make the electric connection. And that could be a deraisa then. I don't know. So I'm saying I don't know what I'm talking about basically, but something to think about, because to understand the chuvas of the Chazanish and oh boy, Chayim on what electricity is, and the use of electricity, maybe in the understand the Shishivas itself. Shiv seems to hold all electricity, the Rabbanan. The Chazanish holds making the connection is the Raisa, and Chayim holds electricity is fire. Okay, so all of these things are things to think about, I think, from this pasuk. Then it says, this is a lesson you teach it. This is the first thing you have to teach every child in Klal Yisrael. Now, what am I teaching them when I'm teaching Torah Tzivulanu Moshe? Torah Tzivulanu Moshe. Torah that Moshe taught us, Meiroshe Kilas Yaakov, is an inheritance from Yaakov. In other words, it wasn't Moshe's Torah. It's your Torah he taught you. It's yours. It wasn't Moshe's Torah. It's your Torah. And what does it mean, your Torah? It's in you already. Meirosha, I don't know the exact translation. It should be Yerusha. Meirosha. So I think Meirosha means that you already inherited it. It's yours. It's in you. You just have to bring it out. That's all it is. You need someone to reteach you really, because the Malach taught you in the stomach all the Torah in the world. That's why you got the good shot in the head to forget it. But if you didn't have that, you wouldn't have been able to learn the Torah. So this is just memory work. And this is something that it's in everyone's hands to do this. And that's what you have to do. So, and then God, you notice in the Gemara, unless they're touching the word Marosha, the whole pasuk is brought down. Normally they bring down two words from pasuk of Chulu v'Goyma. Here you need all the words, because all the words are important here. You have to understand it's your Torah, it's in you. You can do it. There's no excuse really. Okay. Now, Reuven Feinstein is because of the Maisa Billah. I think we have to understand this chet. And then it has Vzos Yehuda, it's out of order. Shimon he didn't give a bracha to, so therefore Shimon is not here. But the next guy should be Levi. Reuven Shimon Levi, so if you don't give Shimon, so it should be Levi, it should be number 2. And he went to Yehuda, which was number 3, and he gave him number 2. Why is he out of order? So Rashi says, because who caused Reuven to be Moida? Yehuda. When Yehuda was Moida on the Maisa of Toma, So he said, do you think that's bad? You know what I did? I did something that was really terrible or something like that. Now, let's understand, why do you wait for a point of that? Because what he did was people may think that he was a good guy. What did he do? He went and he took the bed out of Billah and he put it into Leah's house, into Leah. In other words, if anyone's going to be number two, it's going to be Leah. Right? So that's what he went and did. And for that, tremendous punishment. He lost the kahuna, he lost the malchus. We have a child of Eve maybe even disappear. He needed bracha. And people would say, you know, he stood up for his mother. It's not wrong. It's the right thing to do. Yaakov was embarrassing her, and he stood up for his mother. You know, so people may think he's right. So therefore, he couldn't admit that he did it, because by doing that, people will say, yeah, you're a hero for half the world, Robin Hood. You're a crook, but you're a hero to half the world. You steal from the rich and give to the poor. So therefore, he couldn't do it. So he waited until somebody did something so bad that everybody understands it's bad. Now we know that Yehuda was not that, or Ben Shem did the tefillahs, whatever it is, that's irrelevant. But how does it look to the world? It looked like Yehuda went and picked up a zayna and went and have a baby. You know, hey, you're talking about Yehuda. Well, don't give me that stuff how holy he is. He's what equal. So on that he can say, he thinks that's bad. What I did is a lot worse. Now let's understand, what did he do that was a lot worse? And this is what I think. I think, you know, Yaakov was also not a stupid man, right? So why would Yaakov do something that he understands he's riling up 6 of his sons? That somehow he's doing something that's embarrassing 6 of his sons, the Bnei Leah. He's not interested in starting up with his sons. The pshat is, he had a big question in his mind what to do. He had 2 wives, not number 1 and number 2. He had 2 number 1 wives. One was more personal, that was Rachel. One was Klal Yisrael, that's Leah. Leah is more than half of Klal Yisrael, Malchus, and Kahuna. Yes, all the stuff is from her. So therefore, I have 2 wives. What do? I have my thing by Rachel, and if I put it in Leah, then people are going to say she was number 2. And Leah was never number 2. Leah was number 1. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put it in a Shifcha's house. And that was Billah. Now nobody can accuse me that I embarrassed Leah. So how come Reuven made such a goof? If it was such a cheshbon that Reuven made, that Yaakov made, that it shouldn't be, that anyone should feel that he's insulting Leah, why is it that Reuven did goof? Because Reuven was there by the argument between Rachel and Leah. When he brought back the dudoyim, the flowers, and Rachel wanted the dudoyim, and Leah, and they were arguing there, and Leah said, you stole my husband and everything. So in his mind, Leah was number 2. Well, Leah considered herself number 2. And therefore, it was an insult. But in reality, he avoided the insult by doing it. And therefore, really, I don't believe it's a bed. You know, first of all, Yaakov was a rich man, and I don't see him pulling a bed, carrying a bed every night and going somewhere else. It's ridiculous. He could have bought 6 beds and he has no problem, 4 beds, and he has no problem. So why did he carry a bed? So I think it means a dresser. In other words, my clothes, I kept in one place. I didn't have to have 4 pairs of clothes. So therefore, he kept it in one place. He picked up at night whatever he needed. And that was in the house of Rachel, and then he put that into Bilhah. Okay. Now the question is then, why are we mentioning this whole thing here? This is a personal thing of Reuven and Yehuda. It has nothing at all to do with Klal Yisrael. So the idea is it does have to do with Klal Yisrael. Reuven made a declaration. You don't argue with the gadol. You don't argue with the gadol because he has a reason. You may not agree with his reason, and probably if he would have explained it to him, he probably would have agreed with his reason. But the truth is, I don't know, but the gadol has his reason, and therefore if he gives a command or an order or whatever you want to call it, we have to follow it, because he is in charge, and he has a reason for what he's doing. He's not a mishugana. And that's what he established authority. And that was a big important thing. And because he established authority through Yehuda's agreement, to do his Haidoyah, so therefore Yehuda got back to get into Olam Haba, which he wasn't able to do before. Now, by Levi, that was a very interesting thing Rashi says. That Levi, he's talking about the time of the Chashmonoim. One of the brachas he gives them Chashmonoim that they should be able to, because they were only four. Now here's the question: are they only 13 or only 14? That were fought many tens of thousands. You got to be crazy. How is that those two, they couldn't even possibly win a war? It's impossible. Even if the Benshah makes it that every time you stab somebody, you killed somebody. You know, to stab somebody is not pashut. To stab somebody, you got to go through all the skishkis. So you have to shove that knife in, that sword in, right? And then take it out. That takes, what, a minute? Half a minute? How much time do you have before they all get that around you and seal you and chop your head off? So how many are you going to kill before they kill you? So you need a tremendous ness here. I don't know what the ness was and how it worked. It doesn't make a difference to me. But Zvensha made the victory. Now the question is, it says here that it was Chashmonoi Uvanov. No, it doesn't say Chashmonoi Uvanov. That's Messiah. It says here, the fee. They were little. Why? The 12 sons of Chashmonoi and Elazar. That's 13. Doesn't count Chashmonoi himself. Right? But we say, he may, what is the name? Matisyo ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol, Chashmonoi Uvanov. Kishyom de Balchasyo ben Elosha. So obviously, he was also part of the fight. So therefore, it means 14 people. But 14 people that went out to die, it's crazy. They didn't go out to win. They went out to die. Obviously, we're going to take some of those Greeks with us, but the idea is that we don't expect to live. And they did live. So we see this keach. We find it by Rabbi Akiva too. What did Rabbi Akiva? Maybe he learned it from Chashmonoim. When Papas asked Rabbi Akiva, "What are you doing here? What they do?" He told me, "I learned Torah b'Rabbim. That's what they take me." So for that, why were you Meiser Nefesh? The only things that you need is Yahweh is 3 mitzvahs, not Talmud Torah. Talmud Torah is not part of it. You didn't do right, Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva answered him, doesn't answer him, Papas, if I wouldn't do it, there's no more Torah in the world. It's gone. So that's a good reason, right? But he didn't say that. He said, he gives him a mashal with fish and a fox. There was fish running from a fisherman, and the fox says to him, "Why don't you come up on the dry land and live here?" And he says, I can't live where I'm supposed to live, and you're asking me to come up there and live without it. I can't live without Torah. I'm a fish without water. Take it away. I'm not telling you. I just can't live without Torah. And therefore, because of that, I'm allowed to be Ma'aseh Nefesh. Just like the Chashmonaim said, we don't want to live like Greeks. Nobody was chepping you. No one's telling you to do Avodah Zarah. I mean, they want you to do Avodah Zarah, but no one's holding the gun at you and said, do Avodah Zarah or kill you. They just said, this is a nice, wonderful life. Look at all the good chazah we eat. Look at all the asrayas we have, and look at all of this and that. And you do whatever you want. And it's a fantastic life. In fact, fantastic Olam Hazeh. So why don't you want it? So we don't want to live like Greeks. And that's enough to be able to be Ma'aseh Nefesh for. So I was wondering, if Taki, according to that logic, if there's, let's say, somebody who has Shabbos, and they go over tell him to Michal Shabbos, and then the Michal Shabbos, there's no issue at all if he told you that he holds a gun on you, because there's no din v'yagva yava. But what happens if a person feels, I can't, I just can't, it would kill me to do it? Maybe he's allowed to be the Ma'aseh Nefesh at that point, I don't know. But the raya from these people.
Some people don't want to eat on Kippur.
Sorry?
Sometimes on Yom Kippur, some people didn't want to fast.
Right, and they'd rather do, right.
Forced them to eat,
That's what I'm saying, especially older people, that the doctor says you must eat on Yom Kippur. And they say, I can't, doc, I can't. It's not that I don't want to. Of course I want to eat, but I can't. It's Baruch Hashem that we have such people that becomes part of us to such a degree that we can't. Yeah. We tend to forget Shiloi. I don't know why exactly. It was almost 400 years, 380 something, 387, I'm not sure. I'm around that number. That Shiloi stood. And that was the Beis Hamikdash. It wasn't a bias in the sense of it had no roof. Roof was a tent, but it had walls. And it was where everybody came for the Shalosh Regalim. And you weren't Bamis Warsa, as long as Shiloi stood. You had great Kohanim Gedolim there. The Ikim, the one of the Yodim from the Midbar, those Kohanim Gedolim were there. Greshin Aviyim were there, Shmuel, others. That you had, that this was a place of Kedusha. So how come we forgot it? I think Yerushalayim made such an impression on us, and that's what Rashi says, that Yerushalayim, once Yerushalayim came in, everything became Osa, came down. And it's not only the Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim, it's Yerushalayim that's holy. It's a more very Shiloi, there's no city of Shiloi. Shiloi is a building. Except that around that building there was a certain area that was considered Kochim, Kodesh Kadoshim, whatever it is there. But it was a building. But Yerushalayim is a city. And that city does a lot. It's not just a place for the Beis Hamikdash that's born in there. It's the Mokum HaTorah, Himitzian Teitzei Torah. It's everything. The Malchus is there. Everything is there. And the thing, and it has the din of Machnu Leviyah. It's a very holy place, Yerushalayim. So I think that's what we tend to forget, because when we talk about Yerushalayim, we don't really talk about the Beis Hamikdash. We talk about Yerushalayim, right? So I'm saying, so that's a big zach. I think that makes us forget a little bit. Rashi says an interesting thing. The horns of an ox are strong but not nice. The horns of Reuven are nice but not strong. I don't know exactly what they are, but I would assume you see a deer has like many branches on its horns. It looks very nice. It's not just the one thing sticking up. So obviously, in defense of something, two things sticking up, you want to gore somebody, and they can kill somebody that way. You know, by bullfighting, you see that in the Farish, what an ox can do, a bull can do. But Reuven, it's not so strong in a sense because it's thinner and it's spread out and whatever it is, and it doesn't hit the guy, you know, in the kishes like it's supposed to. So that's the problem. So it's very nice, but it doesn't do too much. So Ben Shemay, that by Yeshua, whatever that means, was both strength and beauty. I don't know what the beauty of an army is, but whatever it is, was strength and beauty. Now he also brings down that he killed the Lamed Aleph and Lochem, and he says, doesn't make sense that out his soil, no matter how big it is, and it wasn't that big really, had 31 kings in it. Ella, that every country wanted to have a place in Eretz Yisrael.
An embassy. An embassy.
More than an embassy. They actually wanted to own land and they'd say, this, we have a little malchus, a little principality over there. Now, what do they gain from that? I think what you have is something like what the, oh boy, who were they? When they went to fight for Yoshki, they attacked what they called the, how can a word like that begins with a C? You know, the guys who established, who conquered Jerusalem, and what they...
Crusaders.
Huh?
The Crusaders.
Crusaders. And they killed a tremendous amount of Jews, right? But they captured Jerusalem and they made a kingdom out of it. I think they made 3 kingdoms they had. But what do they make a kingdom? City. What's a big kingdom here? Stuff like that. We won. It represents we have something in the biggest place in the world in Yerushalayim, the holiest place, and we have a malchus there. And that was the point. So also, obviously here also was an Indian to have a shtickle malchus in Yerushalayim. What didn't they had? Were they really called kings, so like the king Yerushalayim? Let's be realistic. There's different types of kings. There's kings of a small country, kings of big countries. There's a king, one of the kings, he's called an emperor, and that's called an empire. You still have kings in an empire. Ashverosh had many kings under him. And even in the Goyish empires that we had during medieval times, the Holy Roman Empire, but they had countries under them. It was called the king of this, the king of that, the king of that. And that means like the highest official in that part of the world, in that part of the thing. How much power does he have against the emperor? He probably has no power against the emperor. But Lamaise, as long as the emperor is not involved, he has full power, even power of life and death. And that's probably what the Lamed Aleph and Lochem were in that sense. Even though those small areas, I don't know how many people a city could produce. You know, but you got to understand. I mean, you got 600,000 Jewish soldiers. That's a pretty nice sized army, and you can put 20,000 people against them. That's no big deal, right? So obviously, these countries, these cities had more and stronger people, and that's what it says in the Torah. Like I'm not giving you little guys. I'm giving you big armies that are going to be against you. And therefore, they must have a tremendous amount of people. That has the sense. Now, this, I think, it says, L'Levi Omar, L'Vinyamin Omar, Liosef Omar, L'Zvulun Omar, but it doesn't say that about Yisachar. L'Zvulun Omar, Smach Zvulun B'Tzeisecha, V'Yisachar B'Yelecha. That bracha V'Yisachar B'Yelecha is not talking to Yisachar, it's talking to Zvulun. Zvulun Omar, it didn't say the Yisachar Omar, it's Zvulun Omar. Mashma, when a tiny Yisachar doesn't need bracha, because Yisachar learns Torah all day long. He don't need bracha. He's taken care of by God without any problem. That's not a problem. Shaila was Zvulun. Now he told him that your schusim is Yisachar's your schus. The fact that you made this deal with Yisachar, you're going to support him, and support him with the Yisachar's Zvulun deal, not like the Yisachar's Zvulun deals that the Yisrael they can make. I hate to say this, but I think that they mevazeh the Torah. They ask usually, and because I was once involved in this and I refused to do this part, they said the Chazon Ish said it, so I said, okay, according to Chazon Ish you can say it, but I will not say that's the din. How many Yisachar Zvulun do you want? Yisachar Zvulun is $10,000, let's say. At that time it was $7,000. But $10,000. You give $10,000, I give it to a younger man, and you have a Yisachar Zvulun deal. Right? Very nice. So what's the Yisachar Zvulun deal go? You give me money, and I get half your Torah. So I'd rather be a rich man and give for 50 Yisachar Zvuluns, and I'll be in Olam Haba doing all the schmutz I want, because I got to look at all that Torah behind me. So obviously that can't be. You want our kids to be Talmidei Chachamim. So therefore, you can never be more than a half. Or a half is always a whole, meaning each one is whole. That could be. But you can't be more than that. And the Talmud Chacham is also that. And he has full, that means you have to pay him about half of your money. I don't mean half the money that's in the bank, maybe. Maybe the income that you make, you may have to give him half of it. Now, this is what it is. He's giving you half of your Torah, so you got to give him half of your income. He doesn't need that much. You're true, he doesn't need that much, but you got to give it to him. That's already a harder deal to do. People can't live up to it. And the Rosh Yeshiva said, interestingly, there was one guy in Yeshiva that found possibly someone that would do that with him. And he told him it doesn't pay for you to do that because you couldn't live up to it. Because if you become a Zvulun, Zvulun means like a pail. That means you can't take a drink of water. There's no 10 o'clock break. There's no coffee break. You got to be learning. You can't bench all the benchings that you have to do. You can't have a full Shemoneh Esrei. These are the things that you do because you're a worker. And you have to learn Torah all day. And we can't live up to that. So therefore don't do it.
Today they try it.
Huh?
Today they advertise people to do it. So today they advertise and they want people to do it.
Yeah, you understand. So that's wrong. They mevazeh the Torah.
You can do it.
Yeah. You know, and this is by the what is it? The Shas and this is the holiest Yisachar Zvulun deal in the world. So what do you give him? $10,000, $5,000. Probably Kayla takes off $2,000 for themselves. Who knows what they do? Okay. Mashma from the Pasuk that God knew that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be buried there. And could be that they knew that Moshe is going to die when he hit the rock. Anything over there. And that may be before they made their petition for the land of Sichon and Og. But they could have taken two halves. There's two halves. There's Reuven's half and God's half. I don't know how they picked and who picked and how they're entitled to pick. I would assume that I explained it when we learned in Matis, that you first find Bnei Reuven and Bnei Gad, who had a lot of sheep. And then it says, Vayavoyu Bnei Gad u'Bnei Reuven. How come Reuven took the back seat? After the beginning, he starts off as the first one, because he's the Bechar, he's the first, so he's the one that's supposed to do it. So why'd you put him down to the back seat? Elavos, Reuven didn't talk. Like this, when we talk about Reuven personally, Reuven always mished the line right away. As soon as something happened, Reuven has an opinion, right? Whether it's about sending Binyamin down, whatever it is, it's an opinion. He always does something. Of course, he's the Bechor. He has that I guess that push, that whatever it is, to be involved in everything. But if he was told, Pachas Kamayim, you jump too fast, so all of a sudden he holds back. And he doesn't do anything. And I think until he has to go like the Rambam to say Achrein, which maybe takes place in the virus time, which says Gedei Lechiki Leiv, that they can't make a decision already. That's how bad it became. And now they can go back to being a shavet, to go back to the middle. But until that time, there was still training. So therefore, they're not going to revolt against Moshe Rabbeinu. God's coming, so we'll hang around with you. But we're not starting. But as far as saying what they had, that we give the cover to Reuven, because Reuven is the older one. Okay, so it could be that God, as his part in getting them to land, maybe had the right to pick first. I don't know. Whatever it is, but in the end, they picked that land. Yeah. Rashi says about Osher, he doesn't understand the bracha. He says it's a Seforim that they had a lot of sons. Doesn't know what that means. And then there was no one that had the beautiful women as Osher, and they married the Kohen Gedolim, and they were the most sought of wives. So exactly why Osher was zeicher to it doesn't say, but it says. But obviously he had both sons and the daughters. We go to understand. I'm going to take a psak or shiva, and to understand how we have to be careful with stuff of the Middle Ages. There's a machlekes. I don't know really if it's a machlekes. I just think it's a chumrah of the HaAzinu, of the Beis Deborah. But the Aruch HaShulchan and the Rosh Hashiva definitely don't hold it. Now it's the Rishonim, that they were not available for about 400 years. In other words, the Rishonim's period ended, let's say, around 1500s, and they first came out in the 1900s. Why? Because all of these things were held in the Vatican. And they did all the rewriting and stuff like that, all the manuscripts that you found. You never found a manuscript from, let's say, from Rashi himself. You found manuscripts from people who learned from Rashi, or learned from people who learned from Rashi, 5 years back. And each one has a manuscript the way he hears it, and therefore you'll have differences between one manuscript and the other manuscript. And we don't exactly know what they hold. That's a fair thing. But then besides that, the ones that were held in the Vatican, you don't know who wrote over any of these manuscripts. It could have been the monks. And the monks, by doing this, would sometimes stick in kfirah in the manuscript. So there was a manuscript that was discovered, even though it's brought down, I think, by the Chuskuni, but I guess the Shiva didn't see it, I don't know, but I don't think it would have stopped them anyway, that said that the last 8 psukim of the Torah were written by David HaMelech. And that we see from Rashi is kfirah. The Torah has to be written by Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's it, or the last 8 psukim were written by Yeshua, dictated by Moshe, whatever it is. But as far as the thing, it cannot be written by David HaMelech. So that's kfirah. So that book should be destroyed. It's from Yehuda Chosid. It doesn't make a difference. That's kfirah. Now, how did they get kfir in it? Because they injected their ideas into this form. I don't know exactly what this idea made a difference in, or maybe just as a point of kfir in the whole Torah. That who says Moshe wrote it? If this is written by David, somebody else could have written the middle, and stuff like that. And therefore, there was kfir. Now, we're up against ourselves. We have no choices. We have to decide ourselves what's good and what's not good. We can't really know because we don't know what's contaminated in that. Most HaChayim stuff is not contaminated. The church wasn't interested in it. But the Rishonim stuff, it could be contaminated. So you have to read them very well. So there's the Mishnah Berurah discusses the Inyan in Yonim of being machmir, the Rambam's halachas on Shabbos, and he brings down that a ben Torah should do it. A ben Torah should do it. It didn't say about his wife. It didn't say about his children. They don't have to do it. The Shiva used a lashon once to one of the Bachar in Shiva. Don't you know the halacha is not like the Rambam? Am I supposed to know? And the Aruch HaShulchan says meferish that these Rishonim. So what's the purpose of the Rishonim? Since we can't count them as changing the law. No, it's still for 400 years we didn't know about these Rishonim. So the law was that we would arrive not to do this way. And now you're going to change the law and say, oh, we found some more Rishonim, and therefore like this, we're going to change the law. It was wrong till now. All those guys did wrong. Can't be such a thing. So obviously it's not made to be counted. So what's the purpose of it? The din is, there's no halacha you can't trigger on a rishon. It's pretty silly to do it because he knew a lot more than you did. And if he says something, he understood things more than you do. But what happens if I have so many rayas, but I'm a chicken? I'm afraid to do it. And in the end, I find one of these Rishonim agrees with me. Now I have the guts. Now I can say, oh, I have Rishonim on my side. Doesn't make a difference. Maybe the Rishonim say, they're not going to be faked for this thing. And therefore he goes and he paskins like himself, and he has the keach to paskin like himself. That's the point of it. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu, the Beinishim went and showed him everything that can happen. Now, I don't know, in a way, if that's called happy or not happy. He said, Ad Yom HaAchron, the one that we learned instead of Yom HaAchron, Ad Yom HaAchron. He showed him all the lands when they were good, when they were built, and when they were destroyed, and what do you call it? And that probably hurts him a lot. I mean, we conquered this land. I brought him to Eretz Yisrael. I brought good people there. And then it got failed during the Deiros. And it's true, I knew about it. God told me it's going to happen. But seeing it, B'Poel, is a big difference than hearing about it. So the question is, why did God do it? I don't know. So I think though, but he also showed him now. What did he show him now? It's not Eretz Yisrael the way it's supposed to be under Torah, under what do you call it? But it's Yidden. living in Eretz Yisrael, in a land that the Rebbeinu Shem gave them, that produces so much food and stuff, that you don't have any problems. I remember there was a white paper, I don't remember, but I read about it in 1939. They put out a white paper that, and England put out this white paper, by the way, that Jews are not allowed into Palestine. Why? Because Palestine can't support more than a certain amount of people, and if you would be open, what do you call it? In other words, when they're coming from the German countries and from the Nazis and all this to save themselves, they'll be swamped, and the land couldn't produce enough food. So they made an injunction: you can't go to Palestine. So the Jews were locked out. But of course, there were Jews that tried anyway, and they were caught. The ones that weren't caught got away with it, but the ones that were caught were sent to Cyprus and put into concentration camps by England. It wasn't like the Nazis; they weren't out to kill them, but they put them in a concentration camp. And I was in Eretz Yisrael the first time. That was 1974. Shregã, Rav David Tendler, was also a big Talmid Chacham, but a big scientist. And we got at that time, and we're standing outside the Nabi Shmuel. It's one of Novi's Keva. I went to see it. I was standing outside, and I asked him a question. I said, I came here, I expected to see from the white paper that there's nothing growing. I see so much empty land. They can plant on this empty land. I don't see people for miles and miles and miles. How much land, how much can Eretz Yisrael produce now? If everybody just lives in a few cities, where's the food coming from? So he said at that time, Eretz Yisrael could produce for 30 million people. Okay? Even now it only has 10 million. 30 million people. And then they discovered even a Gresre Chachme or whatever it is that they can grow with this written of hydroponics, that they can grow in one of these trucks, one of the backs of a truck, containers, whatever you're going to container. If every grocery store would have one container, they can grow in it overnight whatever vegetables they really need, whatever fruits that they need. Unbelievable. Why didn't they use it? Because then all the farmers are out of business. And then we got a problem economically, what to do with them. But l'maaseh, it can be done. And could be that in the South they have it done here, in the Dixie, whatever, the Winn-Dixie stores. It's supposed to be, I heard, that you can go over into the vegetable department and pick your own vegetables and your own fruit from the trees and the things that grow there. Now, how do they got it to do? I mean, it took over years, not over years, that I can't answer you. But it seems to be they're using some of this technology that was discovered in Eretz Yisrael. So when he say, we see that Moshe Rabbeinu Taka, by seeing everything, is seeing glory yet. He's still yet to see the Mashiach yet to come and stuff, and that's out that he will see. But he'll see the final glory too. Anyway, have a good Shabbos, a good Yontif. You should all be zeichet target to sit in the Sukkos David, and what he called them. We should be zeichet the Mashiach's bed, David, and Meher b'Yameinu, and I mean that literally, Meher b'Yameinu, because I think the world can't possibly take it. That's also maybe one point. It says Moshe Rabbeinu was buried and Taisus goes between Mechaper, whatever Rashi talks in. The Yalkut says something else. it says every time Pa'ur raises his head, Moshe gets out from his grave and knocks him down. Now, what do you mean? Pa'ur's Avodah Zarah. Pa'ur can't get out of the kever. So obviously means the ideas of Pa'ur. What are the ideas of Pa'ur? Ideas of Pa'ur is, if it's natural, it's good. There's nothing to stop you. So Znus was good. So that's what's a natural tendency. Everybody have chaos, liberalism, whatever you want to call it. That's good because it's natural. That's what we're taking care of. You were natural, have those natural tendencies, then use them. Whatever it is, even though it's schmutz and everything else that you can do. But use them. So every time liberalism gets to that degree, Moshe Rabbeinu rises and knocks it down. Right now it's up there very high. Let's see what Moshe Rabbeinu does. Mitzvah Hashem, he should bring, knock it down, but knock it down with Mashiach Tzidkenu this time. Okay, have a good Shabbos. Still on. Good Shabbos, everybody. Good Yontif. Shabbos. Shabbos.